thought you only had 4 cognitive functions in your stack? You've got another thing coming. According to some people on the internet, you actually have all 8 cognitive functions. I like to call this your mega stack. You've got your 4 normie functions that live in your conscious mind, then the other 4 are in your subconscious mind, or your shadow if you're Carl Jung hip. We call these 4 functions your shadow functions. Honestly, Myers-Briggs feels like a never-ending rabbit hole. You start off with learning just the letters, then you need to learn about your 4 cognitive functions, and now you need to learn about your shadow functions too? I swear, soon we're going to be talking about your 4 reverse functions. Those are the functions your evil doppelganger has. I guess ENTPs just need more fodder for their online flame wars. Anyway, we're just going to focus on the shadow functions today. And to understand them, you'll need to first understand all about the cognitive functions. So I made a video all about that. Click on it here to watch that video first, if you haven't already. And when you're all ready, come back and finish this video. Okay, so you're all set? Let's go. Your shadow functions are just your verted regular functions in your normal cognitive function stack. For INFP, that means you have FE, followed by NI, then SE, and finally TI. This means the INFP shadow is the ENFJ. That shadow seems a lot less scary now, doesn't it? Well, at least if you're an INFP, it's not that scary. If you're an ISTJ, then your shadow is an ESTP. Now that's just terrifying for both parties. You could call these additional functions numbers 5 through 8, but they also have some snazzy nicknames that make it easier. Well, it would be easier if every website called them the same thing, but they don't. There are 300 names for each of these functions. Like I said, ENTPs just want to argue about stuff online. Your 5th function is your opposing function. It's always questioning your dominant function. Think of it like a backseat driver, except it's a ghost. It's always making sure FI is aware of how other people feel. It can be a little bit of a gaslighter too. You're the only one who feels that way. Maybe you're wrong. But if you're feeling attacked, your opposing function can come out and fight in a vicious way. And FE knows just how to make people feel bad. It's been stalking everybody for years. Boy, your opposing function is quite pugnacious, isn't it? FE can make INFPs pretty manipulative when they're upset. Your 6th function is your critical function. This one is mostly critical of others. It looks for people's weak spot and then attacks. Having NI as a critical function makes INFPs really dangerous. NI can organize all of the intel from FE and come up with a way to get a cry checkmate in 7.8 turns. But I think it's important to know that this isn't an intentional thing. All of these shadow functions happen in the background. We call it the shadow for a reason, not just to be edgy. So you really shouldn't relate to any of these descriptions, unless you're super in touch with yourself. Your 7th function is your blind spot function. This is the stuff you really don't pay attention to. Like for INFPs, that's anything physical. And your final or 8th cognitive function is called the demon. This one sounds evil. So does that mean that Myers-Briggs teaches us that we're all possessed? This function is going to feel the most foreign to you. In fact, you're often going to be afraid of this function. And you might even be suspicious of people whose dominant function is your demon. But I think it's time we finally address the elephant in the room. A lot of type experts think the shadow functions are BS. Are they right, or are they just afraid of their own shadows and are in complete denial? Personally, I think it's really silly that people are debating what part of a subjective, unscientific system is real or not. It's kind of like an elf and a fairy debating whether or not unicorns are real. The way I look at stuff like this is, if something is useful to you, then you should believe in it. Whether or not that's shadow functions, Enneagram, or dimensional shifting to Hogwarts. If it helps you out, then you should use it. Personally, I think the shadow functions are useful. They just kind of mesh well with my brain, especially the blind spot function. I think we can learn a lot from our blind spots, and when we do, we'll be much happier and more mature people. And I made an entire video just talking about the blind spot function of each Myers-Briggs personality type. Click on that here.